Here follows an extract from my book Artful Designs, available from Amazon. Chapter 2, Part 2. Over lunch, the many facets of British and Dutch painting were covered at length. For the most part, Scott just sat and listened, although it may have been that he was intently busy consuming soup and vast quantities of bread. But the expression on his face showed that he was horrified that there existed on this planet at least one person who couldn't fully appreciate the merits of John Constable. "You've trained your young apprentice well, Drew. I can see that he disapproves of me already. Let me reassure you, young man, that my mind is open and I am willing to be taught to really love your Constable. Indeed, I already appreciate the value of many of your artists. However, you must allow me to reserve the right for my own nation's artists to take the first place in my heart. It is only right and fitting, don't you think?" said Rick. "Well, now you've confused him. He's not used to curators and critics being so fair or generous in their opinions," said Drew. "I suppose that it's all a matter of cultural heritage, but I much prefer the unstaged simplicity of paintings like the Haywain over some of the portraits I saw in the Dutch collection. I saw a painting of a small child all trussed up in lace, draped with gold chains and other paraphernalia. It all looked so phony," said Scott. "I think I know the picture that you're referring to," said Rick. "It's by Jan Alberts Rotius. The chain indicates that the figure is a boy. All young children wore dresses then. The lace and the gold rattle were to display the family's wealth, and, if you remember, there was an obedient dog and grapes also, which represent obedience and education." "That's just my point. It's showing off," said Scott. "Yes, compare the naval scenes by Ludolf Bakhuizen to by the Battle of Trafalgar by Turner. Turner depicts the ravages of war in conjunction with the might of the seas pitted against frail humanity. Bakhuizen uses his art as a form of propaganda to parade the pomp of the nation," said Drew. "You are right in that we always promote our naval heritage. Our glory has ever been in the sea. Even so, you do us an injustice, my friends. Not only are the artists that you compare separated by hundreds of miles, but they are also divided by hundreds of years. Putting that to one side, I could show you the rural landscapes of Isaac van Astade or Jan van der Heyden, which capture rural tranquility beautifully," said Rick. "Well said. In fact, I'll be heading over to that section to take some snaps to pad out the last bits of my talk," said Drew. "What talk is this? I didn't know that you gave presentations," said Rick. "You could hardly call this a presentation, I'm afraid. My wife is part of the Women's Institute and the group that meets in our village. She asked me to give a talk explaining something of what we do at the Whitworth and art history in general. I'd like to feature some of the paintings here too, to complement my slideshow. I think that the ladies would particularly enjoy some of the floral still life paintings by Van Os," said Drew. Drew's wife Beth did ask Sally, but she was busy that night. "I do wonder if it wasn't just an excuse," said Scott. "I'm glad you stepped in then, Drew. It wouldn't do to disappoint the ladies," said Rick. "It's a shame that Sally couldn't join us for lunch, but I suppose she must grease the wheels to keep the workplace happy. I've a hunch that there's more to it than office politics. I suspect that their shared passion has spilled over past the confines of the old masters. I think they take more than their work home together these days," said Drew. "It's fair enough. They're thrown together often enough, so it's inevitable, really. I only hope it stays that way. If their relationship gets rocky, the museum is a small place to host a Cold War," said Drew. "I can't believe that they think nobody has noticed," said Scott. "The receptionist is really put out. I think she nursed hopes for herself, but she knows she's dashed now. All the women get silly when Theo's around. I can't imagine what they see in him." "He's definitely got a certain something about him, and he's got dashing good looks. He's got a good brain too. I just hope that Sally can keep him calm while all this building work is going on," said Drew. "It's not my problem anymore today. I'm going to get these photos taken and then I'm going home. Have you got time to come with me, Scott, or do you need to get back?" I'm not rushing back. I'll give Theo time to calm down. He's more tetchy than usual when I'm around. If he complains, I'll tell him that I'm widening my experience and need to keep learning from whoever I can. I'll listen very carefully to whatever Rick has to say, and I'll write an essay on it if I have to. Anything to keep out of Theo's way for a bit. That's the spirit, said Rick. But it's a long time since I marked an essay, so we'll keep it verbal if that's okay with you. By the way, I've no idea what I've just eaten, but it was really delicious. I'm learning that there's more to your cuisine than roast potatoes. As the three of them walked through the museum, Drew kept his camera poised and Rick maintained a steady flow of informative commentary. Drew just hoped that he'd be able to remember some of these insights into the life and work of selected luminary Dutch painters. Just hang on a mo, you two. I've got to limit content and watch my timings, but I can't really give a talk to the WI and not include this lovely floral art. It seems to me that Van Os is of primary importance, so just give me a minute to photograph these, said Drew. I don't know why, but these paintings remind me of the gypsy caravans and canal boats, said Scott. That's a very pertinent observation, said Rick. The colours used here are very bold. It's all about contrast and form. I also think that the ageing effect of the varnish contributes to the patina that strikes you. Even this really dark canvas gives the same impression. I do like them though, said Scott. You see, we learn, said Rick, smiling. The Van Huysum demonstrates a particularly effective use of bold, contrasting colours. The dark canvas accentuates the bright fruit and flowers. They look luscious, don't they? It's a very effective still life. I'll photograph that one too, though how I'll decide which ones to use I don't know. I only have a time frame of about 45 minutes and that will soon go. I'm going to have a photo cull before today is done, said Drew as he turned to leave the artwork. Theo is in such a temper I daren't go back, said Scott. Yes, I'm glad I'm going home. The building work is proving too much of a strain on him. Hopefully he'll relax when all the art is safely stowed away. Sally will have worked her magic on him by the time you get back though, so you'll be okay, Scott. Don't you worry, said Drew. Rick, we'll look over the constables another day if you don't mind. Rick nodded his agreement and escorted his new friends back to the museum's entrance. For the full book of Artful Designs, available in paperback or as an ebook, follow the link in the cards in the description box or find details on my website at sharonbill.com. Thanks for listening.